We'll be embarking on a walk, which will be around 7 kilometers. And what we're trying to do really is we're trying to link key historical and financial sites in our very beloved Cape Town. We will be exploring the past and present of ethical investment, and we really hope that you're able to take something away from today's walk.
The movement to fight slavery really represents sort of the beginnings of the efforts that people have made in the modern era to use investment and the way that people invest and encouraging people to invest in ethical ways. And to this day, it's incredibly important that we place pressure on companies to have ethical and human rights and labor practices.
We are currently on track to actually hit 2.4, I think 2.2 or 3.4 degrees this century. And this is devastating, but it is particularly devastating in Africa, where temperatures rise up to twice as fast as the global average. 1.5 degrees on average across the globe looks like 3 degrees in parts of Africa. That means that 3.4 degrees as a global average looks like close to 8 degrees in parts of Africa. We're already seeing major climate disasters here, like the current drought in the Horn of Africa, made 100 times more likely by climate change, or the devastating floods in the Libyan city of Derna in September last year that killed nearly 20,000 people.
How many investments does the Office Bearers Pension Fund have in fossil fuels? To what extent has this fund invested in the coal companies that are continuing to export coal to Israel? It's a profound conflict of interest if you're a politician and your solid retirement is invested in fossil fuel companies. Are you going to pass legislation to properly regulate those companies?
I know the Arch, if you were here in person, would give a very rousing support to your actions today. Tutu was an incredibly outspoken activist around climate change and called very explicitly for sanctions and boycott and divestment of fossil fuel companies.
We need to prevent further displacement of communities by divesting from industries that drive climate change and investing in sustainable, people-centered solutions. Just as the world stood against apartheid, we must stand against the exploitation of both people and the planet. Divest from fossil fuels, reinvest in justice, and prevent further displacement caused by climate change.
The Dutch East India Company was one of the first examples of the sort of modern corporate shareholder-owned corporation, because even though shareholders are often not directly involved, or usually are not involved in running a corporation, they are ultimately the people to whom most of the benefits of that corporation flow. We really need to start challenging unfettered corporate power as represented by institutions like the Dutch East India Company.
The City of Cape Town, through the Council at the time in June 2017, made the commitment to divest its investment portfolios from fossil fuel-related funds.
I mean, when the city does roll out the red carpet for Amazon, does it really look at all the positives and the negatives? Was there a systematic assessment of what are called the externalities of the way Amazon does its business? Because you can have benefits for a set community of workers that are created.
Sure.
But if you have a whole bunch of other costs that are being imposed on society, then it doesn't necessarily make sense to bring that business in.
I want to give you guys a couple of notes about climate change and sea level rise. So our ocean is one of our largest carbon sinks and thermal regulator, is the largest carbon sink and is the thermal regulator for the planet. Without the ocean, without an optimally functioning ocean, a lot of life on land, even if thousands of kilometers away from the coastline, becomes untenable. Hurricane seasons that are kicking off earlier and with greater ferocity in the Caribbean, and including the kind of storm events we've seen along the east coast of South Africa quite regularly. So with all of these coupled events, we have sea level rise, but also kind of intensity and frequency of storms, which means that our coastal spaces are becoming incredibly vulnerable. Of course, a lot of our extreme weather events occur on land, right? But water wants to go to the ocean. It's what it wants to do. It wants to return home. So we have a lot of spaces. For example, with Durban, as we saw with the floods, the recurring floods in Durban, you have the extreme weather events on land coupled with the storm surge or extreme weather events impact on the ocean that squeezes these coastal communities into a space that is heavily degraded and heavily vulnerable.
We've got about 15 minutes, everyone, to go for a quick refreshment break in Shift Espresso before we come across here to get the shuttles back to St. George's.